Yeah, I know that, but what I really want people to be able to set a good example and really mute themselves, right? So that we could do that. Okay, so first and foremost, it is wonderful to see everyone's face tonight. Actually, we have number of people that are joining our meeting is actually increasing by the moment. And you're gonna wait about a second. Okay. And I also see some young faces, which is wonderful to see. We haven't seen too many young faces in a while. So we really want to make sure that we appreciate everyone that is here tonight. Okay. Okay, I think everybody got the message about the muting part. Okay, so let's begin the meeting by saying a few words, if you will. First and foremost, we only have 1 hour, and some of you actually have just left a meeting, and some of you are actually going to be joining another meeting very briefly in about an hour. So we want to make sure we stick to our timeline and that we really do the best that we can with the time that we have. What is the purpose of tonight's meeting? The whole idea of tonight's meeting is to really make certain that by the time the meeting is over, that you know a lot more about how we are going to reopen our school year than you did before the meeting. If by the end of the meeting you have more questions than you did before, our job will be to answer those questions. So I want to make certain that I mention two people tonight. One is Mrs. Maricanda. She is the East House leader. She will be the moderator. She will keep me at the time that we have allotted for tonight to make certain that we spend our time wisely. And she will also be the one that will be monitoring the chat room, if you will, because the whole idea after I make my presentation tonight is to provide the families the opportunities to ask questions and for me to be able to answer some of those questions. The other person that I want to mention tonight is Ms. Chaparro. Ms. Chaparro is our parent outreach worker. She is our bilingual outreach worker, and I know that she already sent a message to families via the chat room saying that if any of you have questions in Spanish, please do so, and she will then translate and pose those questions. So before
your school,
we actually begin, I was actually asked to inform our families that we do have certain families that due to the fact that we shut down schools on March 13th last year, they did not really have the chance to complete the required medical component of the physical, if you will. So we want to make certain that every family is up to speed with medical requirements, because even though some families may not be coming in hybrid model, the requirement from the state is that for a student to be educated, whether you are doing this hybrid or you're doing it remotely, all medical requirements need to be met. So please do so as soon as possible prior to the beginning of the school year. That is especially true for 7th graders, as they need different medical attention for them to begin the year. The other remark that has to be made here is, before we even start the meeting, is to make sure that we communicate proper information, and when we are not certain about the answer, that we please ask our colleagues and our families to ask the right people so that they get the right answers. For example, if you have any questions regarding medical information, it is a great idea to contact our school nurse, Ms. Marmo. If you have any questions Scheduling. All of you will know that right now, Mr. Develas, our assistant principal, will be the one that will oversee the scheduling process, and we are totally immersed with that right now. And also, importantly enough, is to keep in mind that we have 3 counselors at Roton Middle School. We have Miss Pratt. We have a newly hired counselor. Her name is Miss Small. She will be actually the counselor for the West House. And we have Madeline LaRose, who was an intern at Roton Middle School, and she will be the counselor for the East House this year. So please feel free when there are questions to please make sure that you do take the time to email or to make a phone call. Both Miss Arbeles is in the office every day, and also Miss Razor is in the office every day. They will answer questions or will direct them to me or to the right people. My motto here is whenever there is a question, we need to find a way to answer the question sooner or later, because we don't want people to become anxious and to have non-answer questions, which makes people a little bit more anxious, if you will. I want to welcome each and every one of our families. Roton Middle School this year has the largest grade 6 group that we ever had in our history. We have 225 sixth graders that are entering Roton Middle School. And also, I am very excited to share with you that we have quite a few students that are coming to Roton this year that have chosen to come to Roton instead of going to other feeder school patterns. So Roton Middle School is really more like a microcosm of what Norwalk is about. We have some kids that come to us from Fox Run, from Kenton, from Jefferson, Narragansett. So we are very, very excited that we have kids that are coming to us in addition to Rowayton students, grade 5 to grade 6, and also Brookside students. And we have quite a few Columbus kids that are joining our school this year. So very, very excited to be calling all those families Roton families or Rams families. That is our motto and our very, very important words that we do say each and every morning. So today, my job, yes.
Just very quickly, I just want to let you know that there is a lot going on in the chat with microphones. I want to clarify a few things. I don't have the ability to mute everyone, so I apologize to you who have been asking for me to mute people. But if you could please mute your microphones now, just so this way everybody can hear, as well as the recording is clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. So let's again take a moment and share with you that as of today, we have about 90 more, maybe 92% of our families have responded to the district questionnaire about which modality they prefer to come to Roton. And out of the 90-some% of our students that have responded, we actually have about 80% of our students that are coming in a hybrid model, and 20% of our students that are coming in the remote model. So let me first and foremost explain what those two things mean, because there are still questions that I received the last few days about what is remote, what is hybrid. So really, what that really means is that students that are coming in remotely, they will be learning from home, but they will follow the exact same schedule as those students that are learning via the hybrid model. The hybrid model students will be actually divided into 2 groups, group 1 and group 2, and they will be coming to school half of them at a time, because we do not, we are not going to be able to have 100% capacity in a building. So at any given day, Roton Middle School will operate on a 50% capacity, which means that if you had the average class of, let's say, 24 students, you will have 12 in the school and the other 12 learning at home via the hybrid model. Now, because we have about 20% of the students that have chosen remotely to learn remotely, that makes the class sizes even a little bit smaller, which is really and truly exciting to be able to provide some more small group instruction and individual instruction. So with that said, let me follow the agenda so that I do not really move away from what has really been prescribed for tonight's meeting. What is it like, to be a student at Roton Middle School with the remote model that we have in place? And what is it like for the students going to come in the hybrid model? Well, both will follow the same schedule. So if I were, Malik, a student in grade 7 at Roton Middle School, I will get up. And if I am coming to school, I will either walk to school or I will take the school bus. Once I get to school, I will actually enter the building in an area that has been designated by us. Each house, as you know, Roton has 3 houses. So each house will enter the building from a different entrance. And also each house will leave the building from a different exit in a building. So if I were a student, I would then come in, I will wash my hands or sanitize my hand on the way in the building in my own designated area. And I will then go ahead to proceed to my first class. That first class will be what we now call an advisory period. In the past, we called it homeroom advisory. But we're going to call that an advisory period. And students will be there for a while as we take attendance, as we get the kids settled, as we get the kids ready to go for the day. We're going to go over this. We are going to be able to really get the kids ready to go. So what happens then? Well, I will then stay in the same classroom for my first 3 blocks. So if I have math block 1, I will then be in that room. The teacher will come and teach me math. If I have science block 2, the science teacher will come and teach me science. If I have language arts block 3, the language arts will come and teach language arts. Therefore, you get the sense that as I am in school, instruction is taking place by my teacher, in my grade, in my house, but they are coming to my classroom. So I, as a student, will not be traveling throughout the building. I will be in my cohort, in my classroom of about 12 students. Now, if I were Malik, I was home learning remotely, or if I was learning in a hybrid model and that was my day to be home, I will follow the exact same schedule. I will then, have breakfast at home. I will then log in around 8 o'clock. I will then do that via class link. I will then go right ahead and join the first part of the day, which is the advisory, also known as social emotional learning period in the morning. And then I will have math, science, language arts, like my other friends in my class will have from the same teachers. So that means that I will be learning the same skills, the same standards, the same content at the same time as the students are in the classroom during that time. So what happens then after I am done with those classes, it is now time to have lunch. So what I will do, I will actually stay and have lunch in my room. So that means that at Roton Middle School, each house will be housed on a different floor, on a different level. For example, Central House will be housed at the first floor, which is known also as the lower level. Then we're going to go ahead and we have West House. They are housed on what we call the first floor, but it's really the second floor. And then we will go right ahead and we will have, that was West House. And East House will be on the third floor. Okay, so what happens at lunchtime, we will have a food cart, and on each floor, students will be able to have their nice sealed appetizing lunch. They will have their lunch in their rooms with the same cohort, and then we will have recess, which means a teacher will take the cohort out for recess. We have designated areas for each house, for each grade, to have recess. Lunch is about 20 minutes, recess is about 20 minutes. So with that said and done, what we are then doing, we are providing the same program to each and every student at the exact same time, whether you are at home learning or you are in school learning. We will certainly practice all safety precautions as mandated by the health department and the state Department of Education. Certainly, students will need to wear masks. The staff will wear masks. We will have students wash their hands at least 2 times a day. We know they need to wash their hands before lunch and after lunch. We will have designated bathrooms on each floor by house. And certainly students will be able to, use the bathroom as needed. But the idea is they also have to practice safety practices, which will be to wash their hands. How many students can go in a bathroom at the same time? There was one question I got this morning. Well, certainly we could have only as many students use the bathroom as there are usable stalls. For example, in the boys' rooms, we do not have urinals that could be used any longer. We will then have toilets, which we have replaced covers. So if we could probably use about 2 students at a time to use a lavatory, and certainly we will make certain that all precautions are, abided by. So what about dismissal? How do we dismiss kids? Well, we are not going to dismiss the kids all at once as we've done in the past. Not only will we dismiss by house, but we'll also be dismissing by walkers, by students who may have rides, and by students who take the buses. So if the buses are not there yet, we will then have the kids wait until the buses arrive. And we will dismiss students in a staggered procedure. And they will exit the building the exact same way as they've entered the building. We will have staff that will be very, very, actively engaged in monitoring students that come in and go out. And because, in the end, safety is our #1 goal. So even though we certainly want all kids to be educated at the highest level possible, we also want to make certain that students are as safe as possible so that they could certainly be educated the highest possible level. So that really kind of gives you an idea as to some of the important topics that families have been floating around about asking questions. Just so that you know, now that we are actively engaged in scheduling all students, we will be able to send something in writing to families, which will indicate what house the student has been assigned in, and also a copy of the schedule, or at least where they report the first block of the day. So that if I were a parent, I know exactly where Johnny is going tomorrow, and certainly I will know exactly what letter day it will be. We will be following the A-day, B-day schedule. So that means the students that have classes on an A-day when it comes to related arts may be different from those classes that we may offer on a B-day in related arts. So it is extremely important that we follow the A-day schedule, the B-day schedule, when it comes to classes that students are taking. The core subjects are taught the same time every day, whether it is an A-day or a B-day. But you know that the related arts classes, they are offered, some of them on an A-day and some of them on a B-day. So we do not want families to be confused with what you hear about A group and B group. So what we are looking at is we're really looking at group 1 and group 2. So one group will come in for the AAA and BB, which means group 1 comes in for 3 days at the beginning of the year. Then the second group will come in for 2 days and will continue. We will send a calendar that very nicely Dr. Costanzo and Dr. Estrella Mora Perrotelli has sent to us today. So the families will have that calendar for at least the month of September, so that you know exactly when you come in and what letter day that day might be. So it will be all spelled out for you, and that will eliminate a lot of the confusion. So with that said and done, we are presently at Roton Middle School, also with the central office, working on really making cohorts. Now, so that people do not get confused, the word cohort has been all over the place. Parents have been asking, what is the definition? What does cohort really mean? If you could just imagine a cohort being a class section. And if you think of a class section, that becomes the cohort. So if I am in this math class, that is my cohort, except that a half of those kids will come in the building while the other half are at home. And when the other half are coming in, the other half goes at home, because the cohort will consist of about 12, 13 students each. They will all be 6 feet apart in a classroom. We will all follow social distancing directives. We will have signage throughout the building, which will let students know exactly which way to walk. And we will certainly work with our students about the 6 feet distance as they follow and go to class. All that will be part of our preparation for school. Because our teachers are now moving to teach instead of kids moving to learn, there will be some movement of teachers. Instead of being in some of the classrooms that they were before, we clustered them closer. So that if I were, let's say, in grade 6, I have math, and block 2, I have science, and block 3, I have language arts, all I need to do is really wait for the teacher for a couple of minutes, because the teacher's right next door. That teacher is teaching math to the room next door, and he's come into my room to teach math to me. And so are the other teachers. That will eliminate moving around the building. That will eliminate students going in different sections of the building, and really keep kids safer, because that's really our #1 goal, is to keep kids safer, and also be able to certainly be able to do some contact checking should we need to do that. At the beginning of the day, every student will have to have a medical screener. What is that? Well, that's really, in the morning, families will fill out a form, which will tell us if the students had any symptoms, if the student had a fever, if the student doesn't feel well. My assumption is if the student has those symptoms, that the parent will keep the student at home and let us know. But we will collect that at the door. But at today's meeting with Dr. Costanzo and Sandra Fayos, we actually were looking at and exploring an app where families could fill out their questionnaire, which only has a few questions on it, only takes about a minute, to fill that out at home, so that we would then go on Power School and say, okay, these students are okay, the parents have filled out the form. So that would be really something that will be the beginning part of the day, and they will really keep track to. Suppose that a student comes in without a mask. We will then provide the student a mask. We cannot provide every student a mask every day, but certainly the responsibility of the family will be to do so. But sometimes kids may lose a mask, it may break. We will do that. We want to make certain that if a student is not feeling well, if the student takes ill, we do have an isolation room at Roton Middle School. where the nurse will monitor very, very closely, and there will be a paraprofessional in the isolation room. They will be supervising that student until we get the family to come and certainly take the kid at home. We will follow the same process when it comes to screeners with the staff. Each and every staff member, including me, every morning, what we do, we fill out a questionnaire online, and that will tell us whether or not we are feeling okay today or not. And we do that each and every day. And we have been doing that since the time we have returned to school. And it's really a wonderful procedure to follow. I want to kind of go a little bit quicker because I know I need to have time for questions at the end. But there are some components that I want to go over before the time of questioning comes. It is very, very important that we talk about students not really congregating in large groups. It is my idea, the way I envision our programs, it's 12, the same 12 kids in a cohort really be that cohort for the entire day. Now, there may be times, and we do not have complete guidelines yet, on how band and chorus and orchestra will be implemented. But there will be opportunities as we move forward into the year where they, the music staff may be able to have a very small group of students from the same cohort to certainly become engaged in the music programs that way. But it's also important when you think about congregating, even when we have recess outside. For example, we have one grade that has recess by the side of the building. Well, they will be in groups of 12, and they will still be respecting social distancing and wearing masks. Students will be allowed to take a break from wearing masks. Teachers will organize in a very, very fair manner when it's a good time to take a break because some kids may need a break from masks. Again, we will be 6 feet apart from one another when we take a break, and the teachers will decide in a very organized way how we will be doing that. As far as very important information when it comes to air quality at Roton Middle School, just so that you know, Roton Middle School, hopefully by the end of the week, will have every room in the building equipped with air conditioning. As it stands right now, we're just about completed with installing air conditioning system in each and every classroom. And when we met today, we also were told that each and every room will certainly have one of those HEPA filters, which will really be very, very efficient and will keep the air clean, especially for those of us that may have allergies. That is all in progress. We are looking at really, and today I was traveling around the building, and the air quality in the whole school has already increased and improved tremendously. As far as, the next piece that's also very important is the signage around the school. I did meet with the house leaders, and we talked about making signs for their houses' floors to tailor the needs of that floor. So we will have signs which will say one way only. We will have signs which will say, wash your hands twice a day. We will have signs which will really help educate the staff and the students, so that we will use those as reminders. We will also have signage at the entry point for each and every house, so that after the first couple of days, students that are in the building hybrid will really know exactly which door they will use. And as we stagger entry, even at that time, students will be kept 6 feet apart. The social distancing is very important. Masks will be used, and so on and so forth. One of the other items that is very important to keep in mind is the schedules that students will be receiving. So once we have completed the cohorting, we should then complete the scheduling so that every student, hopefully by the time the year begins, which is September 1st, will have a hard copy of a schedule to follow. At least we will have a schedule in the building for students to pick up on the first day. If I'm learning the hybrid model, I, as a student, will be able to access Power School and look at my schedule. And we could do that daily. And if I was learning remotely, I will do the same. I will be able to sign in and then go into Power School and look at my schedule for the day, look at my schedule for the week. And we will also send home again a schedule which will indicate which group comes in when. So the families could then plan ahead, and you will receive this before the year begins. I think those are very, very important pieces of information for each and every family to have. I really wanted to, I told Ms. Maricanda to stop me between 6:33 and 6:40. I'm sorry, 6:30 and 6:40. So we are at a point where, in all honesty, you didn't really come just to listen to me for a whole hour. I'm sure that you have questions that may be very, very important to you. And before we go ahead and have Ms. Maricanda kind of group some of the questions which may be similar, and also we will take a turn to Ms. Chaparro, who is a bilingual parent coordinator, to also look at some of the questions that may need to be translated, and I will try to answer them as clearly as I can. But please, after today, feel free to continue to ask either via email or even by calling, because as I said to you before, I am really all about kids. I'm really all about students. The district is all about kids, is all about students. Each and every teacher, each and every staff member, each and every administrator, each and every central office administrator, our superintendent, Dr. Estrella, number one is the kids. So please, we want to make certain that if you have any questions at all, that may create some anxiety on your part, please feel free to ask. So we are going to be finished by 7 o'clock, as many of you have to attend another meeting because some of you have kids at different school levels. But hopefully this will not be the end. This will be the beginning of our communication as we move forward. Now that we rolled over Power School, I have access to Power School to email parents by grade levels and also as a group, as a whole. So expect more communication with me like we were communicating when we went remotely, so that we will keep up with what's going on. All right. So at this time, Ms. Maricanda, if you could please, take a moment and maybe we could start by answering some questions.
Sounds good, Mr. Vellucci. First of all, hi, everybody. Welcome to our open house meeting. It's nice to see everyone. Mr. Vellucci, I think that one of the biggest questions we're getting from the parents is really about how the cohorts are going to be formed. How are they being split?
Yeah. So that is an ongoing question. And I think in the last few days, many of those questions are asked in different ways, but they are really basically the same. So here's what we are doing at Roton. And Dr. Estrella has given us some flexibility as to how we may want to form the cohorts at each school level. We have explored, and we are constantly exploring. I even met with Mr. Develos before a meeting today. We could certainly take a look at the alphabet. A through L will be, one cohort.
Everybody, noise, please. Can they mute?
We need to be on mute, people, please.
But no one's muting. The same people who haven't muted have not muted the whole time. It's very frustrating to listen to you with all the background noise. Can you possibly mute everybody on your end? I've missed half the meeting.
So did I.
Yeah.
Cycle is filled with President Donald Trump, COVID-19
Yeah.
death.
For whatever reason, what has happened to me is something has changed on my commands, and it really is not allowing me to do that. So I really apologize. So the question here is, can we please, all of us, please do the best that we can with what we were given here tonight. So the question here is, we have looked at A through L and M through Z. It doesn't quite work for everyone, but we are going to try to do so. One of the major components of our cohorting is really math sections. So for example, it is very, very difficult for me to say that we are going to place kids from different math classes in the same group of 12. It is very difficult if I were a student that is, let's say, in algebra, to be in the same cohort of students that may be either pre-algebra or common core math, because it will really create a challenge for the students and the teachers. So we are looking at math sections as we go ahead and form cohorts. The other component is that if we form a cohort of 24 students and you divide that into a half, which is now be 12 students, those 12 students will be following their schedule for the day, which means they will be together for language arts, for math, science, and social studies. And when it comes to related arts, we have related arts teachers pushing into the classrooms to really do a lot of the related arts remotely, because we know we cannot have kids in chorus, all 80 of them sing in grade 6. So we have to do that remotely. We do the same for orchestra and band as much as we can, and the same goes for art and some of the other electives. But we are looking very closely at using math sections to cohort students throughout the day, so that we do not have such a wide mixture of math levels in one class that it becomes challenging for students to really move forward. And even though, you know, we certainly want kids to be taken care of socially and emotionally, we also need to do the best that we can when it comes to teaching them as rigorously as we can.
Of course.
All right, Ms. Marikanda?
That's going to be complicated, though.
All right, sounds good. There was a question
Yeah,
about drop off and pickup being staggered.
Yes, so pick up and drop off will also be staggered. So the same group of 12 students that are eating lunch together, they will also have recess together. But they, for example, if I was a 6th grade student and I was, let's say, in East House, I will have lunch outside. I will have recess outside with my cohort, and there will be 2 more grade 6 cohorts outside, but they will not be in the same vicinity, so that I could still wave hello to other 6th graders in the East House. I may still be 6 feet apart, but we cannot be congregating. And we will do the same thing for 6th grade in West House, 6th grade in Central House, in cohorts of 12. This is true for lunch in the classroom or for recess outside. And if it's bad weather outside, we have other sections of the building that we actually use for recess. You know, we could still use some corners of the cafeteria for the 3 groups of 12 for grade 6. Or, you know, we also have the courtyard when it's nice to be in a side courtyard. And we will follow the same process for grade 7 and grade 8 for each house. So we will really never have in one section outside more than 3 cohorts of 12 students each. Okay? All right, Ms. Marikanda.
Sorry, Mr. Vellucci. Another question about cohorts. If you could just clarify the math placements. There are questions about whether or not students are going to have to move house based on their math placement.
So as it stands right now, it seems as if we may not need to do so, with the exception of maybe one math class where we may ask families if it's okay if we move 2 or 3 students. Because it is a very large class of about 28, 29 students. And I was talking to Mr. Develas on Friday and today. You know, we may even have a larger room so that we could have more than 12 students in the cohort, where we may have enough space to put 14 desks in that room 6 feet apart. Remember, the key here is to be social distancing, at least 6 feet apart, so that we will try not to. But that may be the only situation. The other ones work out great, because when you have a class of 28, let's say, or 26, a half will be hybrid one period of time, and the other one will be hybrid another period of time. You may have 13 kids there, but you also may have 3 or 4 students which will be remotely learning for the year. So if you have 28, 4 are learning remotely, you divide 24 by 2, gives you 12, that's perfect. But it may not be perfectly working for 100% of our sections. But really want to make certain that that is one of the main criteria that we are using at Roton. Now, you may hear different things from other schools, because we do have some flexibility within our own building as to what works for us. And I also want to share with you, some of the buildings have different square footage. Some of the classes are smaller, some of the classes are larger. So we have been measuring classrooms. We're going to start taking furniture out, and we're going to see how it works. But if we do need to make some changes, we will give you a call so that we could discuss that with you. All right, Ms. Maracanda.
All right, question about fire drills and how they're going to work.
Wow, that is a great question, because that question came up at a meeting today with Dr. Costanzo when we met with him. So as it stands right now, we are waiting for directives from the state as to how they may be done, and as to how Norwalk may want to implement those drills, including lockdown drills, lockout drills, because we are going to be required to do those drills. How we're going to do them may be very differently from the past. So once we have that information, we'll make sure that it's clear.
All right, another question. Will this information be shared in some type of presentation that addresses the questions? It would be very helpful.
So ask that again, Ms. Maracanta, I'm sorry.
So one of the parents is asking if this is going to be made available in a presentation. I would assume that, you know, with the recording of the video, there is somewhere we would be able to post it.
Yes. So this recording will be available. The district will post it. Ms. Beatovas, our technology person, will post it on our website. And it is my plan to have follow-up meetings. It may even be by grade level, because there may be certain questions that may be more relevant to certain grades, depending on the number of students and number of electives that we are offering. So it is, hopefully, as we move forward, we'll be doing more of this, and they will be recorded.
All right, wonderful.
We had another question about
to...
dismissal.
Okay, so there is a question about dismissal?
Is it going to be staggered or not?
Yes, so dismissal, Mr. Jackson, will be staggered. So we will not have all students leave at one time. We will certainly stagger dismissal. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we will call out students by house First, we'll do the walkers. We will then do students who may have rides that they know of that were planned ahead of time. Then we'll dismiss one bus at a time. So we will never have a large group of students either walk in the halls or outside waiting. But that is a real good question, because one of the things that we also were asked to share with the group today at our meeting with central office is that the schedule for this upcoming school year, dismissal time will be at 2:35 instead of 2:50 at the middle school level, mainly because the teachers certainly will be engaged in different teaching modalities and using different platforms. And there is really a need of a lot of professional development for teachers and staff. So we were informed today that the superintendent will be allowing dismissal instead of 2:50 to be at 2:35, so that teachers could take those minutes and by the end of the week to accumulate to 75 minutes, and they could then use that on a Monday for continuous professional development in the teaching modalities, curriculum, and standards that we're going to be using. So that will actually be reflected in the schedule that we will send home. But that is something that we actually have learned today. So that is a good point to know, though, because as you're planning forward and you're planning to maybe be home later or earlier, depending on a work schedule, students will be dismissed at 2:35, no longer 2:50. And that will be for the duration of the year.
Mr. Vellucci,
Yes.
other questions coming up in the chat. Procedures for when students present as symptomatic. I apologize for my beagle.
Yeah.
Students who are sick during the day, a teacher who's sick during the day, and what the protocol will be for that.
Yeah, great question. So certainly the first thing that will happen when a student is not feeling well, if it has symptoms of, certainly they may be related to COVID, we have an isolation room. The student will be in the isolation room, which will be housed by the gym right now. There's a small room there. That room will be supervised by a paraprofessional. We will certainly contact the home immediately, and then we will take it from there. We will follow up with the family. And certainly the teacher, the staff, if a teacher is not feeling well, we will certainly follow district and health department protocols.
All right, another question that came up. Can you please discuss why the schedule for middle school is a little bit different from the high school schedule?
Yeah, that, it's really not something that I am going to attempt to answer, but certainly there could be an email that the parent could send. I really do not want to speak for high school principals. So if that person could send that email, we'll make certain that the high school principal or Dr. Costanzo may address.
There are a lot of questions now popping up about related arts. I do want to address that the platform teachers have been using is Zoom. Some of us use Google Meet. The district is moving to Microsoft Teams. So at some point this year, we will most likely be transitioning into that for the video conference. But a lot of questions around the electives and how they're being taught through the school.
Yeah, so again, to keep the fidelity of small clusters, we really cannot have students mix with students from other grades or from other houses. Because keep in mind, for example, take a look at grade 6. Grade 6 has 225 students. When we teach related arts, those students are mixed for related arts. So they could be with kids from East House, from West House, Central House, for a total of 225 students. They could be mixed for band, orchestra. They could be mixed for Spanish, French, Chinese, or Japanese, because not every student takes the exact same foreign language or same related art. So the way that it's going to work is the related art teacher will go into where the cluster is, and the teacher will then teach by using certainly the platform that we have, by using the laptop. And students during that time that are taking related arts, they will also use their laptop with headphones and microphones. So for example, if you could have 12 students in one class, and they may all be taking different related arts classes, but they will get it via, virtually, via remotely. So again, just like when they were at home, when our students were at home, they received different related arts while they were home remotely. So during related arts blocks, those 12 students will be in the same cohort, but they will be engaged in related arts cohort, in the same cohort virtually.
Mr.
And
Vucci,
again, student safety is extremely important. We cannot have a student be with different kids in French, different students in gym, different students in art, different students all over the place, because that would be a disaster. Okay?
There's been a
Ms.
question.
Maracanda, go ahead. We have a couple more minutes.
Yep, just a couple. Question about siblings and whether or not they're going to be going to school on the same day. In the same question, there's also a lot of questions about that A-B schedule and the group 1 and group 2 schedule.
Yeah, so great question. So siblings, please let us know. We have had a couple of parents that really want to make certain that siblings come the same days. So please let us know, and we will accommodate that and make sense. That is extremely important. Mr. DeValis is the right person to email. The other question is about that A-B day, A-B groups. So that you do not get confused, think of A group as group 1, which is a half of the cohort. And think of B group as the second half of the cohort, or group 2. Because we're going to follow A day schedule and B day schedule, we are no longer following A through F at Roton. A day, B day. We don't want parents to be confused with, gee, my son is an A group, and what's the day, A day or B day? Which schedule does he follow? So if you look at A day and B day, and then you look at groups as group 1 and group 2, it will not be that confusing, it will make sense. So when we send home your schedule, your children's schedule, it will say group 1, group 2, and the schedule will say A day is today, tomorrow is a B day, Wednesday is an A day, Thursday is a B day, and we'll say group 1, group 2. So let's say the first 3 days, group 1 comes in. So group 1 comes in and we'll say A day. Tomorrow, group 1 comes in, we'll say B day.
Okay.
Wednesday, group 1 comes in, it's another A day.
Okay.
We don't want parents to be confused about the letter days and the groups, okay? It will become very, very clear once we send the schedule home, and you will follow it daily.
But I have to make an appointment to take him for his physical.
Okay? You know, Ms. Maracanda, I want to see if Ms. Chaparro is still in the call.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Ms. Chaparro, I want to really at least answer a couple of the questions that maybe parents had that you had translated.
I have translated some questions and I gave them to Ms. Mariconda, who has answered them already for them. So I pass it along.
Okay, that is wonderful. That's really, really great. Ms. Mariconda, how about 1 or 2 more if we have time?
Sure. I'll actually clarify. If your child is in need of a new Chromebook, our library media specialist is also our tech liaison. Her name is Lauren Beatuis. She is the best person to reach. The 6th graders come in but still have their devices from the elementary school, I believe. So they're going to start with those devices. Mr. Vucci, is there anything I have wrong about that?
No, absolutely. And if there is a device that does not work, we will either repair it or replace it. Remember that the Chromebook is the vehicle for learning, because we are going to be learning by using that device. So we need to know. And
Okay.
Miss Beato is the key person, and that is very important. Thank you.
So I'm going to repeat, there were a couple of people asking in the chat. Ms. Beato is the person to contact about Chromebook replacements. Students should have their Chromebooks from the elementary school still. They will be
Yes.
using those during 6th grade or middle school. And I know people said that they couldn't hear that when I spoke last
Yes.
time. Also,
And if there is anything wrong, we'll replace it.
Yep, we'll replace it or repair it. Mr. Vellucci, a lot of questions about when exactly the schedule supply list cohort will be sent out to parents.
Yeah, good question. So as we started the week today, we were able to have Mr. DeVellis speak with Ms. Starkman, who is a central office in data and scheduling. So we are now able to start finalizing the cohorts. Certainly, my goal is to send stuff home at the latest by the end of the week. So families will receive their next week and they're ready for the first day of school, September 1st.
September 1st is the first day of school.
Okay? One more, Ms. Maricanda, so we could at least address one more.
Sorry, I'm just trying to put down, Lauren Beatois, her name is now in the chat along with her email address.
Good.
So if you need a Chromebook, if you need help, that's the person to go to. Question about September 1st being an A-day.
Wonderful.
So Mr. Vellucci, is September 1st going to be an A-day?
September 1st will be an A day.
Wonderful.
September 2nd will be a B day. September 3rd will be an A day. September 4th, a B day. Yeah, A, B, A, B, A, B. And we
Perfect.
will send home a calendar 1 month at a time with that on it. Okay, so listen, I really want to take a moment to really appreciate all of you, because as I look, we have many of you that attend tonight's meeting, and please be great messengers, share information with other families. I received a few emails from families that couldn't be part of the meeting. They're out of town, but they will be able to really access this via central office or our website, because it is recorded. And we will have more meetings. The name of the game is we need to clarify to eliminate some of the anxiety that may exist. Again, I'm really excited about the beginning of the school year. I'm really happy to be able to see all our students either in face-to-face or remotely. And I'm really excited about starting the year in a positive way, that we seem to be going that route. So that's really happy time for all of us. And our teachers are really excited. And I know our kids are waiting to come in. So thank you so much. We look forward to meeting again and communicating again. Look for things via mail, but also check your Power School emails, so that you could then follow what we are doing that way. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the week, all of you.